Get it, everybody. Welcome. This is Jason Clemmons, Doctor of Chiropractic at the Rock Health and Wellness Center, and you are listening to Life with Jason Clemmons, DC. And I'm excited on this Tuesday, October 17th, because we got the microphone turned on to start this show. So for you guys on the radio last night, I apologize. I fumbled that one last night, and so we went back to the drawing board, and that's the whole show we're doing tonight. So just all about fundamentals. So I'm hoping we've got this right. Got the lights turned on. We got everything ready to go, and we're excited to be here. And so, sometimes you don't fumble. Sometimes you fumble and you don't get it right. So you just got to go back to the fundamentals, and that's what we're going to talk about on the show tonight. Are the fundamentals of life, and see if we can make sense of them a little bit, and see if we can make things make sense about what are the fundamentals of health, and how do we go back when things are getting a little bit chaotic right there? So I texted Ken and Bob for the show, told them I was going to try to make sure I had the microphone turned on. So I feel pretty good about what's going on right now. We're connected, apparently. I think everything is working fine. Everybody can hear me. And so let's get after it. Let's see if we can have a good evening. Last night, I know some of you are Houston Astros fans, but for those of you who are Texas Rangers fans, yesterday was about as good as you can get, right? The Texas Rangers and the Dallas Cowboys both won on the same day. I don't know how many times in history that's happened, or we might want to write that down. But man, that was great. Like that was kind of an amazing Monday for us all. So we're glad to be here on Tuesday. We got up this morning, got to working out, got after it. Been seeing patients all day long. And now we're coming to you and trying to share some information with you about what we got going on with our health. So we've got a new contest. I mentioned it a little bit last night at the end of the show, and we've got a test going on our show. And what we're doing is it comes from the idea that have you ever had a pharmaceutical pill, right? Like one pill. Like I've got a deal right here of hydrocodone with acetaminophen, and this hydrocodone with acetaminophen, just one of these little pills right here, are not very big. Like that's a relatively tiny little pill right there, right? And as my mom knows, since she's had her knee replaced here in the last couple of weeks, and these are not her pills, these are in a bucket that I've had since I took over this office, since I bought this office for my brother-in-law, and that I keep in my office. And I may have showed it to you before, but it's just a bucket that I have, and it says when you decide your drugs no longer serve you, please deposit them here. And I remember when I went to work in my brother-in-law's chiropractic office, that was his bucket, and he's the one that made this. And I told him, I said, "Hey, dude, you can stuff that up your nose, right?" And I think I mentioned that earlier in one of the early shows. But so this is where I just reached in there and got one of the medications that we have in there. And so it's just one hydrocodone pill, right? And it's not very big at all. And this one hydrocodone pill, if you take it after you've had your wisdom teeth pulled out, or if you've had your knee replaced, or your shoulder replaced, or you've had some sort of trauma that you've had, you could take one of those pills right there, and that one pill will change the way your brain feels pain, right? Like you'll feel pretty loopy. Actually, is what we've been saying at my mom's house here for the last couple of weeks. Is you can change the way that your body perceives pain, and the way that your body functions, just by taking one of those little pills. And it's the same thing that happens with a blood pressure pill. It's the same thing that happens with a birth control pill, right? Any of those pills, one of those pills can simply change the physiology of your body. So when we get into talking about health, I'll be talking about health, and somebody will come up to me and they'll say, "Man, doc, I'm down to just one soda a day. I'm just drinking one soda a day." And every single time that they say that to me, it makes me wonder, how many hydrocodone pills could you put in one soda bottle? How many birth control pills could you put in one soda bottle? Right? So we're having a little contest. And for those of you on the radio, just have to this is a 20-ounce bottle of some sort of former soda. Did this for me, and she got a bunch of Red Hots that are supposed to represent whatever that pill is. That if you take it, it will change your physiology, right? And I just wondered if drinking one soda might be equivalent to taking a whole bottle full of birth control pills or blood pressure pills or whatever. Like we know for a fact that if you take a birth control pill, you won't get pregnant. It'll change your physiology, right? I mean, everybody out there knows that if you take a blood pressure pill, it'll it'll decrease your blood pressure. If you take a cholesterol pill, it'll decrease your cholesterol, right? Now, I'm not talking about pharmaceuticals tonight. It's not my game. I'm not talking about pharmaceuticals. What I'm talking about is nutrition, right? Because we just say it's not going to hurt anything if I just have one blizzard. I don't understand one ice cream. Like I'm 94 years old. I heard that was one of the quotes I got this week. She's 94 years old. She can have a blizzard if she wants one. I don't argue that. You can have a blizzard if you're 4 years old if you want one, right? Like whatever. I don't care. Everybody, it's America. You can do whatever you want to. You can have it or not have it. But I'm just presenting for consideration. Well, it says, well, doc, it's just one cookie, right? How many blood pressure pills could you stick in one cookie? Like, does that one cookie change your physiology? Does one bottle of soda per day change your physiology? Right? So the contest is this. If you can guess how many Red Hots are in this 20-ounce bottle, you will win a $50 gift certificate to Longhorn Steakhouse. If you're not in Lubbock, I'll get you a $50 gift certificate to a place that is in your town. If you're in another country, we'll figure it out. So if you want to make a guess, you can text me at our text line, 806-794-0400, or you can send us a reply on Facebook, YouTube, or X, and you could just see, hey, exactly, take your guess at it. See how close you can get. And there's only 3 or 4 of us that have the answer. And so Kim and her husband and myself, I think we're the only 3 that actually know how many is in this bottle. So it's a wide open guess for anybody out there who wants to take a guess and say how many Red Hots can you get in a 20-ounce bottle of soda. Just give us a guess. If you're the closest winner, we're going to run the contest all the way through the end of October. So you got a little bit of time to make a guess. And we've had some guesses in so far. So we'll just keep that tally going. See how close you can get if you'd like to have a $50 gift certificate. So that's our contest that we're doing for this month. And yeah, I hope you guys participate. If you want to send a text or a message, we'd love to have it. Next thing I wanted to do today is go over some praises that we had in the office. There was 2 main ones that I wanted to talk about. Number one was one of my 84-year-old ladies, 85 actually. She came from the gym. She finished up her workout. She came over here and got adjusted. And I said, give me some wisdom today. And she said, I'm just so, I guess with all the things that are going on in the world and all the craziness that's going on in the world, I'm just so blessed to have my health, have a place to live, have food to eat, people around me that love me. And I said, I really think if you could take a snapshot of the entire planet, what you would find out is that's happening all over the place, right? We are so inundated with what's going on in the world and what's going on over there in Israel and what's happening in Ukraine and all the stuff that's happening that we sometimes lose sight of the fact that there's a lot of normal, blessed life happening on this planet. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of people that are getting up every day, going to work, raising their kids, having a great life, doing things, running their life, doing all that stuff. The whole world's not crazy. And I can attest to that because I know one of them that had a really good day, and she's doing great. So if you get a little bit caught up in that, if you spend too much time looking at your phone or too much time looking at TV and you get a little bit caught up in that, I'm just here to encourage you to say, hey, look, It's not how it's really happening out there. There are some places that are horrific, no question about it, right? But there are a lot of places out there that are having a great day. And the next one was the little girl that came and walked on on our treadmill this morning. She just rocked it. And we have to pick her up out of her wheelchair and put her shorts on her and put her in the treadmill. And then the treadmill blows up around her so that she can walk. And she walked for 12 minutes and she was rocking it the whole time that she was doing that. And then we went in and she got adjusted and we worked on her posture and we got her to set up while we were working on her eyes and everything. And she just did a fantastic job today. So I don't know if she watches the show or not, but if you guys want an inspiration, if you just, I mean, that man, I'm telling you, that was an inspiring moment right there. She just really is doing well. She's responding to what we're trying to do. We got a long way to go with her, but she's really doing a fantastic job. And so that was really that was a lot of encouragement that I had today. So I got to Littlefield this afternoon at our satellite clinic, and I asked my other lady, she's 84 years old that came got adjusted, and she's had a rough week. She really had a rough time, and this last week, and I wasn't even sure I was going to see her. Um, she's she was challenged a little bit, and so we had a really good conversation this afternoon about. And I said, "Hey, is there anything that you want me to cover on the show?" And she said, "Well, yeah." She said, "Tell the old people to keep moving. You should talk about how old people get still and they just sit and they don't move and how everything just goes to pot." She she didn't say pot. She said something about sheep and Shinola, but I'm not going to say the whole thing because I told her I couldn't say that saying on Walk by Faith Radio, so I wasn't gonna complete exactly the same saying that she told me, but she was just saying that, she's had to do a lot of sitting this year. She's got a son that's in bad shape, and his foot's in bad shape, and she has to bring him over here to Lubbock, and she's had to do that multiple times, and she has to sit, and it's just worn her out basically. She just had to sit in the car, wait for the treatment, take him back. And she's 4 years old, having to do all that. And during COVID, she lost her daughter and her husband within 17 days, and so she's been through it, and she's tough as a boot. I really try to encourage her to keep it going. But we just had a really good conversation about is, and I thought about it on my way home. I was like, it's not just old people, it's all people. It's everybody. We got to keep our feet moving, and we got to keep going forward, right? And I was trying to think of like, what do you do? What do you do with a patient? What do you do with a person? What do you do in any situation in life, really, when things are going chaotic when all your health is falling apart and all your world is falling apart and you're not really sure exactly how to get yourself back on track, or you don't really know exactly what to do, right? What are you supposed to do in that moment? And and what I came back to was athletics, right? So you guys know my story by now, probably. And but my dad was a high school football coach, and my mom was an elementary school teacher when I was born. And I was born October 26th. So the the I mean, I went to my first football game. I'm pretty sure I was about 2 weeks old, maybe 3 weeks old, when I went to my very first football game. Like I was born in athletics. I was raised up in East Texas and Oklahoma when I was a little kid, up until I was in fifth grade when we moved to New Mexico, but the summer before fifth grade. But that's the way they say your whole personality gets developed before you're 7 or whatever. Well, my personality was developed in the middle of athletics. My heroes were the players that played for my dad and on his team, I remember watching them throw a football when I must have been 4 years old, and one of the kids out in the front yard, and he was down on a knee, and he was throwing a football to the other guy. We lived right across from the high school, in Oklahoma, right when we moved out there the year before I was in kindergarten. And I've been in athletics my whole life. And when I started playing football, I was 6 years old. And I started the first year, I had to kind of work my way into quarterback. I think I played tailback most of that year. But then the next year, I somewhere along that line, I got to play quarterback, and I played quarterback all the way through college. And so I I kind of I kind of see life through athletics. I lived athletics. I use the things that I learned in athletics to try to help me get through the 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 days. Like it is the fundamental thing of my life. It's just the way that I see it. If your dad was a banker, then you probably know stuff about banking, right? And if your dad was a farmer, there's a good chance you're a farmer. Like, I mean, I'm not. It's not any big deal. It's not any big deal to me that I was in athletics. It's not any big deal that I played quarterback. It's really not that complicated. Just throw it to the open guy, right? And and so, but the what I went back to is I went back to some of the times in my athletic career when things went really chaotic. And I remember the time when we were in high school. I went to high school in Roswell, New Mexico, at Roswell High, and we were playing Lovington. And I'm pretty sure my grandparents, if I remember this story right, my grandparents had come from East Texas to watch the game, and I threw 4 interceptions in the first half of that game against Lovington. And I don't know if I've told this story again, but I'm just act like if you're a good friend, you'll just act like you never heard it before, right? So I threw 4 interceptions in the first half of Levington, and there's a couple things that you learn from throwing 4 interceptions. Number one, you learn what rage is, right? You there's an amount of you understand adrenaline. I couldn't explain right brain, left brain to you when I was a junior or senior in high school. I can't remember what year it was that I did that. I think it was a junior year, but I can tell you honestly that there's amount of rage that happens when you throw the ball to the other team and you're the quarterback because there's nobody else's fault. You just threw it right to them. And let me say this for all you guys who went to watch the Red Raiders play this weekend: the quarterback does not throw the ball to the other team on purpose. If you have ever wondered why did he do that, he did not do that on purpose. He was not trying to throw the ball to the other team. I don't ever know. I don't think there's ever been a quarterback, unless it's some crooked guy trying to win a bet. I don't think there's ever been a quarterback that intentionally threw the ball to the other team, right? And there's this moment when you're in the pocket and you step and you go to make that throw, and the ball leaves your hand, it comes right off your fingertip, and all of a sudden the guy appears there. Like sometimes you never see him, but it's just like you didn't see him, and then the ball left your hand, and then boom, you saw him. And there's something neurological that goes on with that. And I've studied that a few times when I've studied blind spots and right side, left side brain and actual focused attention. I've kind of thought about interceptions when I was studying all that stuff, but you don't see that guy, so you didn't throw that in intentionally. But when I was at Roswell High, we had stickers. If you did something great in a football game or you did something good, then on Saturday, whenever we met or whenever it was, um, you would get a sticker, a decal, a helmet decal to go on your helmet. And we had this award, and it's kind of gross. It's the name of the award is a little bit gross, but it was called the Snot Bubble Award. I couldn't decide if I was going to say that or not, but that's what it was called. It was like you just hit the guy so hard. If you had the hardest hit of the week and you hit the guy so hard that, just kind of hit him so hard, just knocked the snot out of him right there. And that, I don't know. I didn't make it up. My coach Bradley and them made it up when I was in high school. But if you had the hardest hit of the week, you would get one of those stickers. And it was like, it said pow on it or something like the old Batman show. And I actually got the Snot Bubble Award when I was a junior in high school, maybe a senior. I think it's a junior. But at that game against Lovington, when I threw that interception, one of those 4 interceptions, I actually got the Snot Bubble Award because the rage that just takes over you. And then that guy it's like the seas parted. And I threw it right to the linebacker, and he just comes full. He's just coming right at me. And I was like, dude, you are fixing to get it right here. Like it is on. And I just lit him up. I hit him as hard as I could, and I hit him so hard it knocked the ball loose, and we got the ball back. So I threw an interception, caused a fumble, and then we got a fumble recovery all in the same play because I hit that guy so hard, and he laid out there, and I knocked the breath out of him for a minute. But um, those are just kind of side notes to what went on. And then later on in my career, when I was playing at Tech, we were playing against TCU. I did the same exact thing. I threw 4 interceptions in the first half, right? Oh, it's people just say bad things about you. And they'll say bad things about you right in front of your mom and your brother and all that stuff. The people that are in the stands, they just say bad things about you when you throw interceptions. It's not a popular thing to do when you do that, right? But both of those games, what I did is I went in at halftime and I took my shoulder pads off and I sat down in the floor. Remember when I was in college, got me a new T-shirt, got me a fresh, clean T-shirt underneath my shoulder pads, and I just sat down in the floor. And the college one was way easier because I was like, dude, I've done this before. But when I was in high school, I just took a deep breath. I just sat down in the floor. I took a deep breath, and I just thought about, hey, just get back to fundamentals. Just just get back to the things that you know how to do, that you've been knowing how to do since you were 6 years old. Like, you've been this is not something that's outside of it's not rocket science, right? It's not unmanageable. This is not something that you can't handle. You just gotta get back to the fundamentals of it. You just gotta get back to the basics. You gotta get back to the basics of how you play the game, right? Just go back, and we did that when I had 40 yards passing against TCU in the first half. 40 yards passing and 4 interceptions, and there was really 5, and I think I told that story before where there's 5, but I got roughing the passer on that one, so they took that interception back. We had 8 yards passing in the 3rd quarter. We threw 2 passes, and I completed one of them in the 3rd quarter of that game. The rest of the time, we just ran the football. We just punted the football on 4th down. We just played defense. We just got back to the fundamentals of things. And then in the 4th quarter, we had 205 yards passing and 3 touchdowns. And I don't know how the stats of that Lovington game was, but we beat the dog out of them, whatever it was. We won 26 out of 28 games when I was a junior and senior, and we were back-to-back state champions both years. So we were 13-1 both times. So I've been through chaotic moments, and I ended up as a champion. The TCU game, we threw 3 touchdown passes, and one of them was with 11 seconds to go, and we won the football game. Both of the times that it was the most chaotic in my life, we won the football game in my career as a football player. And the things that I learned from that is that you 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 don't count the score of the game until the game is over. And if you're still in the game, you should keep playing. Just keep playing. Just keep playing. And when it goes crazy on you and you don't know what to do, you just get back to the fundamentals. You just go back to the sound fundamentals of the things that you're supposed to do that helps you get yourself back on track, right? And the other thing is you can't throw interceptions in the 4th quarter. Both of those games I messed up. I messed up in the first half. It doesn't matter. You got lots of time left, right? But when you get to the 4th quarter, now we got to get serious about things, right? Now we got to focus in, and we got to make sure that we're not making mistakes in the 4th quarter. It's the same thing I'm thinking about in my business right now. I've made all the mistakes I want to make. I've been in chiropractic now for 23 years. Like, okay, look, I'm probably in the second half. Maybe I got 23 years to go, but maybe I'm hoping I got more than that. But if I only have 23 years to go, look, I'm in the second half. I need to stop making mistakes. I need to start getting back to fundamental things in my practice and make sure that I don't make some of those mistakes, right? And that's what I told my little lady in Littlefield today. I was like, look, she kept saying, I said, I just want to present this for your consideration. I want you to consider that because she kept saying, I've just had a bad year. That's my problem. I just had a bad year, and it's getting me. And I was like, look, it's October. We're in the fourth quarter of this year. You haven't had a you can't say you've had a bad year until December 31st. This year's not over. Tom Brady won all his money. He made his money in the fourth quarter. Give him a minute and 10 seconds and one timeout, he'll go score a touchdown and you'll lose, right? That's where we go. That's where we go make the difference. We go make the difference, and you really the big money guys get paid in the fourth quarter. And what do? They go back to the fundamental things. They make sure that they do the sound fundamental things that it takes to win the game. In this game of life, we're playing to win. We're really trying to get out there and win the game. And look, you'd be way better off if you started when you were 20, if you started when you were in your teenage years, or you're 20 or 30 or 40, and get back to fundamentals quicker. It's way better to have a big lead at the end of the game than to have to win with 11 seconds to go because you made all these mistakes in the beginning. But either way, you still play the game to win, and you keep going and you keep going and you get back to fundamentals when things get chaotic. And we're taking a break on the radio, but we'll be right back on the radio, and then we'll come back and we'll break down what are those fundamentals in the second half of life and the second half of the show. Yeah, so we'll take this little break with those guys. I don't want them to be um, left out of what we're talking about on the second half of the show. So you guys can have another look at our little bottle right here and take a guess. You can just take a guess at about how many red hots are in here, right? The equivalent of drinking X number of hydrocodone in a day. If you took this many hydrocodone in a day, it'd kill you, right? That one little pill that I showed you a while ago was enough to knock the pain down in your body. But if you took this many hydrocodone in a day, it'd kill you. If you had this many blood pressure pills in a day, it'd kill you, right? You would not want to do that. But so, is there any chance that just one soda a day might be killing us? Could it possibly change our physiology? You know what's in a soda? Have you ever looked at the ingredients in the soda? Right? It it's full of garbage. There's the phosphorus and the high fructose corn syrup and the sugar, and they say, well, it's hey, high fructose corn syrup, and well, we don't use high fructose corn syrup. We use sugar, right? It's all the same. You know that you've seen the show, right? It's still toxic to your body. And then calcium and phosphorus. Think about this for a second. Calcium and phosphorus compete for absorption in the bone. If you increase the amount of phosphorus in your body, you're increasing the competition of calcium absorption. You get the majority, almost all of the bone mass that you're going to get in your lifetime, you get by the time you're age 25. Explain to me why it would make any sense to let your kids drink sodas. Like, that doesn't make any sense. And I think most of you love your kids. But so that's the one thing Leslie that I have to give her credit in our house. Leslie stopped the sodas. Caitlin's never had one. Jacob's never had one. Leslie had one after he got grown. They're 25 and 22 years old and never had a soda in their life. We don't have sodas in our life. We don't buy sodas. We don't have them in our house. We don't. The kids have never had one. And then now Caitlin won't have one. She's like, why would I do that? I don't want to drink a soda, right? This stuff is garbage. It's carbonated water. Carbonated water. Remember we talked about that. Take a deep breath in. You got oxygen. Take a deep breath out. You're blowing out carbon dioxide, and you're trying to get rid of the carbon dioxide that's in the water, right? It's not fundamental. It's not fundamental to do that. It'll make you sick. It'll ruin your life. It'll do those things that it'll mess you up, right? We're going back to the radio. I'll be right back. Okay, everybody, we're back on the show. We're talking about fundamentals. This is Jason Clemmons at the Rock Health and Wellness Center. You're listening to Life with Jason Clemmons, DC, and we're coming to you every night on Walk by Faith Radio. We got our own Facebook um, at the Rock Health and Wellness Center's YouTube at Health from the Rock, and on X. Jason Clemmons DC, I believe, is on that. So we're we're talking about the fundamentals of life, right? So what do you do? Well, let's just get back to, now that we've talked about life and athletics. So if I'm going to take that athletics knowledge and now I'm going to bring it into life, and I'm going to say, okay, if if my health and wellness is chaotic, if my health has gone to, if I'm just throwing interceptions with my health, and I've just totally screwed it up. And let me tell you, when you throw 4 interceptions in a half, everyone in the stadium is mad at you. And if you do it in college, you're on TV and the radio, right? Not just everybody in the stadium. Everybody in the entire Red Raider nation is disgusted with you. They're disgusted with somebody. They're disgusted with your coach. And it wasn't my coach's fault. When I threw the interceptions, it wasn't my coach's fault. It was my fault. And I told everybody in the press conference after the game, that was my fault. I messed that up. That was a bad deal, right? So when you when you go from being super unpopular and people are looking at you like, how did you ever even get a scholarship? This doesn't even make any sense, right? To coming back and winning the game in the end, in the fourth quarter, what you had to get back to fundamentals. You had to believe in yourself. You had to believe in the process. You had to believe that if you got back to fundamentals, life was going to be better. You had to believe that. You couldn't quit. I didn't have a choice to quit. That wasn't an option for me back then. I was when you're the quarterback in a university, you are responsible for the entire university system. Everybody's counting on you. There's no quitting that's available. You have got to get yourself back on track and move forward and handle your business and give it your best shot and quit making mistakes, right? So what would we do with our health? What would happen to us if we were sick? If what do I do? What do I do with a patient that comes into me and they're sick and everything is crazy and it's all, everything is messed up, right? Well, I take as much of the educated mind as I can. I take as much of the information that I can as a doctor of what I've learned along the way. I'm trying as hard as I can to to study and read and do that stuff, right? I've got friends. I'll reach out to them. I'll look on my, I'll go to YouTube and study the guys that I study that are doing shows just like this, right? And I'm not going to YouTube looking at funny cat videos. I'm going to guys that are doing shows like this that are trying to help people. And I get back on those things and I get after it from that standpoint, right? And that's what we try to do. That's what we try to do with fundamentals of health. And so what do we go back to? What would be the thing to do if we're trying to get somebody to regain their health? You've thrown interceptions with your health. Things are chaotic with your health. And now what are we going to do to help you get back on track? Right? Well, what we're going to do to help you get back on track is what I keep talking about over and over and over and over again with the fundamentals of things. What are the fundamentals? What are the fundamentals of health? Right? What are those things that what are the things that we need to do in order to be healthy? And we go back and we talk about, like Dr. Chestnut broke down for us, right? We eat well. Let me get this on there where you can see it, and we'll talk through it for the radio crew. We eat well. We think well. And we move well. Those are the simple fundamental things, right? What does that mean? Right? What are we trying to accomplish in chiropractic? We're trying to accomplish the removal of the subluxation. right? The subluxation, interference in the nervous system. We're trying to get rid of interference in the nervous system. What causes interference in the nervous system? Physical, chemical, and mental emotional health. No, mental emotional stress. Stress. So that the physical, chemical, and mental emotional stresses of our lives create interference in our nervous system, and they break down our body, and we break down. So how do we get back to health? How do we get back if we're if our health is not functioning right? What do we do to get back to health? Right? That's we go back to fundamentals. We eat well. So if we're going to eat well, what does that mean? We want to eat complex carbohydrates. Carbs are not bad. Okay? We want to eat complex carbohydrates. We want to eat plants, and we want to eat vegetables and fruits and berries. We want to eat more vegetables and more berries than we eat fruits, but we want to get back to that fundamental thing right there where what we're trying to do is eat complex carbohydrates, right? We want to get proteins. We want to eat our fats. And what fats do we want to eat? We want to eat way more of our omega 3s than we do omega 6s. What are things that are high in omega 6? Vegetable oil, peanuts, refined carbohydrates. Am I saying peanuts are bad for you? No, a little bit of sixes are good for you, right? Not coming at you. I'm not coming at you out there. I'm just going back to the fundamentals of things. Those are the things that mess up this. Those are the things that cause inflammation. We want to cut out our calories in our drinks, right? We don't want to drink sugary drinks. We don't want a whole soda full of sugar, right? That's not something that's fundamental. That's throwing an interception. That's throwing an interception with our health and screwing our health all up again, right? Those are the things when we talk about eat well. One of the things on Instagram, one of the guys, and it's not science, okay? So, but everything doesn't have to be a scientific paper. I love Dr. Huberman. I love the science that he says, and he wants to bring real science to people, but that ain't life. Life's not just real science, right? Like, explain the science of me loving Leslie, right? Tell me how that broke down. Tell me the science that when she's walking down the fire lane in those pink and black checkered pants. Break down the science of how that got my attention and what that has to do with things, right? No, that's not how it works. Look into a little baby's face and tell me the science of that whole thing, right? Yes, you can tell me the science to it, but there's more to life than just the science, right? So the guy that I really like on Instagram, his name's Justin Richards. Oh, sorry. And his and I love Dr. Huberman too. Don't get me wrong on that. He's taught me a lot of stuff. I really do appreciate him, and he's really fantastic. So, and if you guys do Instagram, if I could figure out who I'm following, it's Insulin Resistant One. Insulin Resistant One, the number one, and his name is Justin Richard, and he just carries. I think I've mentioned him on the show before, but he wears one of those little patches on his arm that tells him when his blood sugar's going up, right? And he can measure his blood sugar with the little patch on his arm, which is great. If you feel like you need to do that, that's fine. I could pretty much tell you what it's going to do to you. And if you understand refined carbohydrates, that's going to cause it to go up. But one of the things that he did this week was rice cakes, right? And when my whole life, when I was trying to go on a diet, when I didn't know any better, one of the things that people would tell me to do is eat rice cakes. Like, get you a little rice cake and that could be your snack, right? That does not sound with what we're doing today, right? And if you'll go look at how it spikes his blood sugar, and I had a guy that's trying to change his life. He's trying to get back to fundamentals, right? He kind of let his health get away from him, but now he's trying to regain his health and try to get back together. And he was like, "Yeah, man, I ate a bowl of oatmeal this morning." And I was like, "Okay, well, that's better than Pop Tarts, probably." But maybe I said, "Don't be afraid to throw in some biscuit. I mean, not biscuits, some sausage and egg, right? Don't be afraid to get some bacon and egg." And he just kind of looked at me like, "What?" Right? He didn't know that eating eggs, bacon and eggs, is like how sausage and eggs is what I had for breakfast. Sausage and eggs and a raspberry, blueberry, and strawberry smoothie with stevia and water. That's it. No almond milk, none of that rice milk, none of the other stuff. Right? Just plain water and a handful of pistachios and almonds. That's just that's and macadamia nuts. That's a that's there's very little sugar in that. Controls my insulin. It keeps me going throughout the day. The protein's the stuff that I need, right? Those are the things that's an eat well moment right there. The things that we do to eat well when we want to get back to fundamentals. We want to eat well. We want to think well. Dr. Chestnut coined these terms, and so I'm giving him credit every time I say them, right? We want to think well. Well, what does that mean? We want to have balanced thoughts, right? We want to understand balance in the universe. Remember our whole sine wave that we talked about? And there's a sine wave, here's a sine wave, however, right? There's a up and a down to a sine wave. And there's a positive and a negative. There's a positive and negative to our thoughts. That's why I've been all week long, Monday, Tuesday, or Monday and Tuesday with my patients talking about the football game on Saturday in Lubbock. It's like, hey, look, there's a lot of great things that happened. The football game was somewhat stressful, right? It's stressful for all Red Raider fans. It wasn't stressful for Kansas State fans. It was only stressful for Red Raider fans. But the stadium was beautiful. The light show was great. The tailgate was great, right? What am I going to do with my thoughts? And you're like, don't be a wuss. You need to be a winner, whatever. Like, look, man, I'm 52 years old. I'm not interested in making myself sick over a football game, right? I'm not going to make myself have acid reflux and high blood pressure over a football game. Would I like us to win? Yes. Am I really invested into it? Just other than my daughter working there, I don't give millions of dollars to the football program, right? So the point I'm trying to make is think well, balanced thoughts of the way that we think. That's why I study things like what Dr. DeMartini that we talked about last Monday, the magnet, right? You're like, well, you've got the positive end of the magnet, you got the negative end of the magnet. If you cut the magnet in half, you actually get two magnets, a positive and a negative, and a positive and a negative, right? Like, how'd that happen? I thought the negatives were down here on this end and the positives were down there on that end. But then what actually happens is when you cut the magnet in half, you get two magnets because everything's balanced. It brings it back to the middle. That magnet, that magnet, that magnet. You cut it down till you can't cut that magnet any thinner, and you find out that the positives and the negatives were right next to each other, and they always are. And if I get myself out of balance, I don't have fulfillment. What I have is I have half fulfillment. I'm only looking at one side of the story, right? That's why those things intrigue me. That's why I try to talk about these things on the show and share them with you, because those things really do intrigue me. It's like, okay, and it's taken me a while. It's taken me a long time to listen to it. I've had to listen to Dr. DeMartini and listen to him and listen to him and listen to him, put those CDs in my car, think about what he's trying to say, think he's full of crap with all the things he's saying, just like you probably think some of the stuff that I say is full of crap. I get it, but I'm not going to quit saying it. So I'm just going to keep going, and you'll process it. And then you'll say, all right, balanced thinking. What does balanced thinking do for me? It keeps my lower brain calm, right? It's like, okay, fundamentals, fundamentals. He's going to do it again, right? He's going to draw that brain and he's going to say up and to the right, over to the left, right? The upper brain shuts off the lower brain and keeps the amygdala under control. The upper rational brain shuts off the lower irrational brain, which keeps my prefrontal cortex engaged, which gives me the opportunity to see both sides of the picture. If we're going to get into it not too long from now, because I just that Master and His Emissary book is a handful, and how I break it down and give it to you, it's kind of like the body. There's a lot to it right there. But that right side sees the world differently than that left side sees it. But if you get them both working together, you get a big picture of the whole thing. You get the big picture and the details. You get fulfillment out of life, right? And when you get that upper brain in charge, that rational brain in charge, and you get that lower emotional brain calmed down, it calms down your body. It helps your immune system function better. It helps your body function better, right? It takes away your acid reflux. It takes away your depression and anxiety. It takes away your joint pain and the things that go along with it, right? Those are the things that's the fundamentals. That's why I keep going over them over and over and over and over again, right? And it's the same thing, right? It's the fundamentals that keep it going. It's the fundamentals, and when I get into like I can pick almost any article that some of these things right here. There's a book, Repair and Regeneration of Ligaments, Tendons, and Joint Capsules, edited by William R. Walsh, PhD. There's a book right there. Here's another one, Fascia, the tensional network of the human body, right? And if you get into it and it starts talking about adhesions, fibrotic adhesions typically develop secondary to irritation and inflammation. I mean, that's the first highlighted thing on the book of this Robert Slipe. I don't know how you say that, PhD. This book in 2012. The first thing that he talks about in the book is he talks about fibrotic connections, um, adhesions inside your tissues, which causes decreased movement and joint movement. The first thing that he talks about right there, right off the jump, is it develops secondary to irritation and inflammation. And then it just goes and talks about inflammation. And it's like, Jason, why do you keep talking about inflammation? Why are you going to talk about fish oil one more time? It's like, what is your deal with fish oil? Why do you keep saying that? Why do you keep talking about fish oil? Right? Well, an anti-inflammatory diet provides a natural and non-pharmacological approach for decreasing inflammation associated with musculoskeletal disease with no known adverse effects. I don't know any adverse effects to taking fish oil. I get some people that come in and they try to tell me, or are you worried about the mercury in the water? I'm like, not with my fish oil. I'm not. Maybe, but I'm not worried about that because I'm worried about your inflammation, right? So eicosanoids are little smoke signals that go from one cell to the other cell, right? Eicosanoids exert control over inflammation. Omega-3 fatty acids oppose inflammation through decreased production of inflammatory prostaglandins, leukotrienes, and arachidonic acid. Omega-3 fatty acids oppose inflammation, right? So, what are we trying to do if our world is in chaos? One of the very first things that we need to do with our health, if our world is in chaos, is we've got to control our inflammation. So, how do we do that? The very first thing that we can do is start taking our fish oil. We started this nutrition program in the office, right? We started doing all these omega-6-3 tests. And now we're doing the post omega-6-3 test. And people are coming in and they're going from 46 down to 7. in their omega-6-3 ratio test. Their arachidonic acid, which leads to inflammation, to EPA ratio. They started off at 46-1, and now after 5 or 6 weeks of taking their fish oil, they've gone all the way down, and now they worked themselves all the way down to 7-1, right? Okay. Whatever else is going on with this person cannot be handled until we get the fundamentals done. It doesn't make any difference if I work on their shoulder. It doesn't make any difference if I work on their knee. It doesn't make any difference if I work on their hip. In the long run, all I'm doing is putting a Band-Aid on it. If we don't get their fundamentals, if we don't get ourselves back to the fundamentals, then it doesn't matter. It's not going to matter if we don't get ourselves back to the fundamentals, right? It wouldn't matter if I drew up a play in the middle, which I did. We lost our only game our freshman year when I was in high school against Alamogordo, going for 2. We lost by 2 points because we drew up a play on the sideline in the middle of the game. It didn't work. It didn't work. Pitched the ball to Twan. Twan was supposed to stay outside. He had 3 blockers in front of him, and he cut it back to the middle. And was it Twan's fault? No. It's like, dude, he never run that play in his whole life, right? We just made it up on the sideline, right? That's not fundamentals. It's like, Doc, do you think I should take? I've seen this ad on TV. I've seen this ad on TV for this stuff, and I've got there's this new light thing that's this thing, and there's this new machine that does this thing, and there's this other little deal over here that does this thing, and it's like we're running all over the place, but we're forgetting that it ain't going to make any difference if we don't get our fundamentals first, right? Are you taking your fish oil? No, but I really do think this thing that I saw on TV or the internet is going to be the answer to the deal. Well, I'm just going to present for consideration that that's not the starting point, right? It shouldn't be the starting point. We shouldn't start with the crazy stuff first. We should run the fundamental play on the goal line to score the extra point, to go for 2. We shouldn't make up a play we've never run before. Why would we do that? It doesn't even make any sense. Why don't we run the play that we've run 1,000 times and run the fundamental play and block and tackle and do the things that we're supposed to do, right? That's what I think happens in health. I think it's not that complicated if we can go back and do the fundamental things, right? So when we eat well, we give our body a chance to control our inflammation and control our insulin. That's what our show's about. That's what our whole office is about, right? Then we think well, and we try to balance this right side to left side movement pattern, right? And then what's the last thing? We got to move well. And that's what the lady was asking me. My little lady in Littlefield said, tell old people to move. When you sit down and you don't move, you quit firing your brain. And I understand, I'm not talking to everybody out there that can't move. I'm just talking about the ones that still can move. If you can move, it's vital that you move, because if you don't move, your body's not going to function properly. Your body's going to start to break down, and then all heck is going to break loose. And one of the questions I asked that 84-year-old lady in Littlefield, I said, how many pharmaceuticals do you take? And you know what her answer was? 0. She's 84 years old, and she takes 0 pharmaceuticals. I wonder if those 2 things are correlated together. I wonder if her level of health is related to the fact that she's not had to go through those things, because she's done most of her cooking in her kitchen for the last 70 years. She got married at an early age, right? She's been through a bunch of stuff, but she's still working, and she's still doing pretty good, and she's gotten back. When chaos happens in your life, the best thing you can do when chaos happens in your health, the best things you can do is go back to the fundamentals. Get back to the basics of eating well, moving well, and think well. Get back to doing the eating like you're supposed to. Complex carbs, proteins, fats, control your 6:3 ratio. Don't eat any sugar. Stay away from that garbage. It's really bad for you, right? Think well, understand the balance, and get out there and move. Get your spine moving, get your feet moving, and see if you can get your eyes moving. If you can't do anything else, get your eyes moving. Those are the things that you can do to help yourself. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. We will be back tomorrow night. You guys have a great night. All right. Thank you guys on Facebook. I really appreciate it. If you got any comments or questions, there is one right there. Yeah. Thanks, MJ. I appreciate it very much. So thanks for the info. I don't know what's going on with Dak, but I'll soon find out. And thanks for the comments. You guys want to guess at how many Red Hots are in this and get a gift certificate, you can give us a shout, give us a text at 806-794-0400. And otherwise, I'll see you guys tomorrow night.